What's up, investors? It's the Russian dude. Let's get straight to the point, talk about some ridiculous Russian propaganda. Okay, because today we have a very good one. It was just released. So long story short, what happens is that there is the photo of this guy, allegedly a Russian soldier. He was eliminated and apparently he is now a hero of the Z army. What specifically he did, he himself alone was able to intercept 13 F-16 fighter jets, which are not even yet in Ukraine, and he was also able to eliminate single-handedly 368 soldiers of the Ukrainian army, and not just Ukrainians, but of different nationalities and different mercenaries as well. This guy is from Yakutsk, allegedly, and his nickname is an actor. And the most extraordinary thing about this particular Z soldier, as if everything I just mentioned is not already extraordinary, is that as soon as Ukrainians were able to finally capture him, they did not just keep him as a prisoner of war, they literally ate him alive. This is the level of the Z propaganda. Once again, it is very new one, so Vladimir Solovyov, Margarita Simonyan, they did not yet pick up this story. But I'm sure eventually at some point in the future they will reference this guy. I will keep my eyes open, and if they do, I will make sure to report it and we're gonna laugh even harder. But okay, enough with this clownship, let's talk about some serious stuff. First of all, let's briefly talk about NATO setting up conditions, which are so-called quote-unquote Trump-proof conditions, which in case he is the one who is gonna get elected to be the next president of the United States, the weapon supplies to Ukraine will continue no matter what, and he will not be able to cancel them. This information also came to us very recently, so at this very moment it is not yet certain which kind of conditions they're trying to set up, but I mean, yeah, it does make sense. What we do know is that recently some very high representatives were sent to Ukraine to discuss this very possibility. And long story short, the main idea here is that it's not just America who protects Ukraine, it is the entire NATO alliance, which obviously includes many other countries. So no matter how Trump would want to stop sending weapons to Ukraine, he will not be able to do it alone. He will need most likely the approvals, the agreements from other countries as well. Speaking about some other support to Ukraine, it has also been reported recently that F-16 fighter jets are finally coming to the country this month in July already. This information came to us from the member of the National Security of Ukraine, Vadim Ivchenko, and at this point he mentions that at first these fighter jets will be used mostly to intercept missiles and drones. It will not be yet used in the combat activities, jets versus jets, but we're gonna start basically enrolling them slowly, step by step. And speaking more about Trump, he recently presented this so-called Peace Plan 2.0. So let's talk about this right now. Basically what he claimed is that if he was a president of the United States instead of Joe Biden, first and foremost, this war between Russia and Ukraine will never happen. He sees that the main reason why it did start, it is because NATO started expanding to the east, literally provoking Putin. So basically the first things that Mr. Trump is saying is that he will have to have a very serious conversation with NATO members, especially the most recent ones, and maybe find a common ground between them and Putin. Another thing that Trump mentioned, which will most likely a part of what Putin would want to hear from him personally, is that in case NATO members do not dedicate 2% of its budget towards a common defense budget of NATO, America will not provide security guarantees for such members. And then Donald Trump mentioned, quote-unquote, that he will not let European countries do stupid things such as sending their own troops to fight in Ukraine. Then Trump also added that he will increase the military preparedness of European countries by building more military bases, not necessarily close to the Russian border, and the number of soldiers which are able to react fast will be increased from 40 to 400,000 people. And And ultimately, once again, Donald Trump summarized everything that he will consider allowing Putin to keep some of the territories which are right now under Russian control. So these are basically these so-called peace agreements that Trump is proposing if he is elected as a president. In my personal summary, I can say only two things. The thing number one is that these are very bad peace agreements because this will allow Putin to just continue doing these things without being prosecuted, without any consequences at all. But besides this, other dictators around the world, because obviously not just Russia has this type of leadership, right? Other dictators around the world, they will see this as an example and they will take an opportunity to perform exactly the same. To try invade neighboring countries, hoping that America will just close eyes and do nothing about it. And the thing number two, what I'm personally seeing here, what Trump tries to achieve with this so-called Peace Plan 2.0, is that he does not want any more involvement of America in this war. Primarily, he does not want to send that much weapons and spend that much money, because he does see that China is more supporting Russia, so America fighting against Russia and against China on the territory of Ukraine will deplete billions and billions, like he says, dollars from the American budget. He does care about America first and foremost, he does not care much about the rest of the world. But you know what? Putin also is indirectly looking for the ways to at least start peace negotiations. So let's talk about this particular topic very soon, because first of all, I want to give you a quick update from the southern and eastern front lines, because Ukrainians finally were able to liberate a pretty good chunk of Kreminna area. But first of all, we have to make a stop on Crimean Peninsula just for one quick thing, because Ukrainians were able to find a Russian air defense system, Tor M2KM, which is located in extremely close proximity to one of civilian beaches. Once again, this is the thing what Russians are doing. In case there are any attacks against the Crimean Peninsula, they will obviously try to intercept it, and this is extremely close to civilian areas. So in case they're able to do it or not able to do it, they will always be able to blame Ukrainians for these civilian casualties. Next, we make a quick stop on the territory of Russia, specifically in Kursk, where, as you can see, there was a very big fire. But according to the propaganda, this was just a fire, nothing extraordinary, somebody was smoking in inappropriate place. But Ukrainians were able to report that a local avia and technical factory was targeted and partially destroyed. Next, we have a video from Sumy region, which at this very moment does not have that many combat activities. In fact, not a single settlement of Sumy region is under Russian control. But citizens literally on the territory, on the border between Ukraine and Belarus, there are some diversion groups appearing from time to time. Ukrainians were able to find one of the most recent ones. They tracked them all the way to the house, abandoned one, where they set up their temporary base, and Ukrainians destroyed it. And then also in Kharkov region we can see that the activities they do continue. And this time we have a first-person footage of a female Ukrainian soldier who is helping her comrades to defend the advancing Russians. Besides that, right here is the video from elite Ukrainian brigade called Azov, which is defending its own positions in Terny and Yempolivka from advancing Russians. These two videos are a very rare find which I was able to access recently. So guys, if you as always, if you want to see the full and uncensored versions, highly recommend, personally, one of my favorites in a very long time. Please go ahead and check them on my Patreon, the link is down below. Our next stop brings us to Konstantinivka and Paraskoivka, where yet another completely failed Russian offensive resulted in them losing at least 6 different military vehicles of various kinds. And in Kreminna, where recently the activities intensified at least a little bit, right here is the video where Russians, as a result of their another failed offensive, lost 10 different tanks. This was a relatively huge battle specifically for Russians, because, I mean, imagine losing 10 tanks in a single attempt. This is a big loss. But to make it even worse for them, Ukrainians, besides repelling these attacks, they were able to advance deeper into Serebryansky force along Kreminna frontline. And just as a reminder, this particular area was literally under constant combat activities for the last couple of years, with neither of the sides advancing significantly any day of the year. Well, until recently. Because Ukrainians finally were able to liberate a relatively big area of Kreminna frontline, as you can see from this map, which is reflected in this blue new zone. And now, as promised, let's briefly talk about Putin, who indirectly wants to reinitiate the peace negotiations with Ukraine, and this time he is literally begging one of his allies to do it, specifically the country of Hungary. Guys, this is an extra chapter for Patreon members, because right now Patreon is what keeps the Russian dude going. So if you want to keep watching, and also if you want to support my work and also get uncensored footage, hundreds of them every single week, please go ahead and check my Patreon links down below. Thank you so much. Well, there you have it, guys. As always, thank you so much for watching. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel if this was interesting, informative, or both. And also check other useful links down below, my PayPal donations, Instagram, Patreon, and of course merch, hoodies, t-shirts, cases, shorts, whatever, everything you can find right there. Thanks so much for watching. See you tomorrow.